Pretty good. I forgot the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, she forgot it again.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. This is the Rowley Board of Selectmen meeting for October 4, 2021. This meeting is being audio and video recorded by Rowley Community Media. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we have a first item on our agenda, the 7 p.m. appointment with Treasurer Collector Karen Summit to discuss tax title property auction and land of low value auction. Good evening, Karen.
So we actually have two different options to talk about. If you remember that before the pandemic started, I had come to you talking about having an auction with properties that we had foreclosed on in land court.
Right.
And I'm just kind of circling back to that, and I have properties that I would like to sell at auction. And the first step is to identify which properties it is we want to sell. So you all have a list in front of you, and I was wondering if perhaps there's a member of the board that would like to take a look at these properties with me and see if there are any properties that the selectmen would like to hang on to. I believe there's a property where we had talked about a recycling center at one point in time, so we probably want to sell that one. And just kind of go through the list and see.
Right, okay.
So,
Anyone interested in sitting down with Karen and going through these?
I could do that.
Joe? Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay,
okay, and then, we can come back with recommendations, or, I can let you know.
okay. One of the properties that caught my eye is, and I'm not sure this is the one I'm thinking about, but off Daniels. What exactly is that property?
That's the property that's kind of in the middle of where they wanted to build a horse track.
Yeah, right, that's what I'm thinking of. We should not sell that. In my opinion, we should hold on to that, because it's only going to increase in value if someone provides access, which the developer is going to develop that area.
Yep.
And that was right in the middle of the horse track proposal.
Exactly.
And they couldn't have developed that property without acquiring that, so.
Right.
So I hope we don't auction that one, so, okay.
How big a parcel is that?
I'm sorry?
How big a parcel is that?
Small. Relatively small, isn't it?
I believe
I remember
so.
right.
I believe so.
I thought it was about 4 acres, I could be
Yeah.
Oh,
wrong.
is that big?
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, it has great potential, in my opinion.
Right.
So you should hold on to that.
Mr. Chairman, we also have this list submitted to the conservation agent
Right.
to review for, to see if there's anything that may need to be retained by the town for their purposes.
And it may very well turn out that some of these don't sell at auction.
Right.
And in that case, we might want to consider putting them to the parent custody of the Concom, just so they're not a liability on our free cash every year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Karen, just a quick question. Which is the parcel on Route 1, Newburyport Turnpike, that we were going to use for a possible recycling center? Do you recall? I don't remember which one it is.
I'm not 100% sure, but I know about where it is on the map. I just don't recognize it from the description and the street number.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, no, we know that one.
Right. I just was curious which one it was.
And the second one is something that I've never done before. It's never been done since I've been here. It's called a land of low value auction. And the way that works is every year DLS comes up with a number and says if you have a property, the taxes are owed, and the assessed value is less than a certain amount, you can, instead of going to land court, and spending all money and time doing that, you can apply for a land of low value affidavit. So 2 and 3. And we have acquired these. Basically what happens is it's a taking without the town actually owning the property. So what we do is we have an auction, and the minimum bid for these is the amount that's due to the town. So you can't come in and, bid $1 because, the town is owed more than that. And the bidder has 10 days to pay. If we don't sell them, we recess the auction and then reconvene it a week later. And then if they still don't sell, then they become tax possessions of the town. And then at that point, we own them and, we can auction them, we can use them for whatever purpose. So that's actually going to take place, that's a statutory thing. We were granted the first title on 2 properties, the affidavit on 2 properties in November of 2019. The affidavits are good for 2 years, so we're getting close to that. So the auction is going to take place on the 26th of October. It'll be up here in Town Hall, it'll be on the website, it'll be advertised. So that, like I said, it's a statutory thing, it's the procedure that has to be followed, and if we don't sell them and make up what we're owed in taxes, then we own them.
Okay.
Any questions?
Nope.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Okay, I'll take up the next item on the agenda is a letter of resignation from Reserve Police Officer Oceana Galladay. A motion to accept their resignation with regrets.
Give you that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, 1 abstention. General business number 2, set Halloween trick-or-treat hours. The board needs a vote to set Halloween trick-or-treat hours. Vice Chairwoman Dina Ziv has suggested that trick-or-treating hours be set for the date of Halloween, Sunday, October 31, from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Chief Dumas supports this, so I need a motion.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Next on the agenda is old business number 1, discuss Saxon Partners' proposed 40B affordable housing project at 395 Main Street. At last week's meeting, David Calhoun of Saxon Partners presented the board with a proposed 40B affordable housing project for 395 Main Street. Mr. Calhoun is presenting his proposal as a friendly 40B. His firm is asking if they would like to proceed with a friendly 40B for 320 apartments at the existing Didax property on 17.5 acres of land abutting the train station. Mr. Saxon is here today. I guess you've got some modifications you want to make, or?
Thank you. For the record, David Calhoun from Saxon Partners, I'm joined by Josh Duffel, also from Saxon Partners. There is no Mr. Saxon. But just quickly, when we listened to the board, and we spoke to the board last week.
Excuse me, can you make sure you're talking to the mic so that
Okay.
we had some trouble last week, so.
When we were before the board last week, talked briefly about a couple things about area median income. So I pulled a piece on that for you. It's behind the summary of things. I also pulled from the Town of Weston's Affordable Housing Trust in their growth program, summary of some points, because Raleigh is not all that different from Weston. Growing older population, declining school population, and surprisingly, when you look at the town, there's a tremendous number of people that are eligible to live under the 80% area median income. So I just wanted to give you that sheet, let you read it at your leisure, just so you knew that there were some facts behind what we were putting out there last week. When we talked to the board last week, big concern was size, the density, the traffic, were some big issues. Also the scenic byway, protection of the Great Salt Marsh. The Great Salt Marsh all things that we know we can protect, we have to protect. And DEP will make sure that we do that, and also the local conservation. The scenic byway, I don't know if you noticed it, but we intentionally moved the project so that the first building of any size, other than the clubhouse, is 600 feet back from the main road. And the goal was to create a parkway going in with heavy landscaping, so when you drove by it, you did not know there was an apartment building there other than by the sign. So that was one of the key features. The board then challenged us and said, it's too big, you tell us what you want. You said you wanted maybe 160, maybe nothing. So we went back and we looked at it. I talked to the town planner. He was very, very helpful. He raised a lot of concerns, and he emphasized to me that it was very important that we put a number forward, and that the board did not want to just continue saying 160, 0, whatever it is. So what we did is we went back and we looked at the plan. We looked at the market. We looked at the things we have to do. And in order to really build a high-quality project, this needs to stay in the 240 to 260 units for Saxon. There may be other people that would like to do a different project at this location, that might want to do condos, but to do a high-end rental product, we need that number of units. The way we would go at it is we would shrink the footprint of the building. I know Mr. Snow mentioned that he didn't like the 4 stories, the height. But by keeping the 4 stories and shrinking the footprint, we can create more open space, more green space, and we eat up less of the, quote, open space. By shrinking the project as well, we're going to be able to change the parking. And if you notice in the sheet that I gave you, by shrinking the project to the 240 to 260 range, we'd be bringing the parking from 675 spaces to 504. We still think that would be over parked. So if we're lucky enough to go to the ZBA, we would probably approach the ZBA looking to do 1.3 spaces per apartment, which would bring the parking down in the range of 312 to maybe 338. We still think that's over parked. We would create the banked parking, so if it was needed, we could take up the sod and pave it and put in the spaces. But that's where we were looking at going with. The traffic, we talked with our traffic engineer. He still feels that there is not going to be a problem from what we do. In reducing it down to the 240 to 260 range, it's even going to have a lower impact. Your concerns and questions that you raised about the intersection out at Route 1, I sat at that light. I saw some of the problems. I think that could be improved greatly just by a timing change. I know it's a little bit difficult to get on the Mass Highway schedule to come out and study and change things. But when they do, it usually makes a significant difference. We just did it down on our Plymouth project, and it made a huge difference. So that being said, we hope that the board would look more favorably on a 240 to 260 unit project. There's a lot of things going on in our town. Jack brushed my attention just this afternoon that there's a beautiful property that may be coming on the market that was a nursing home. There's other properties around. And we huddled up as a group, and we acted as if we were sitting in your seats. And we discussed, okay, what's the problems? What's going to be the complaint? Will they recommend somebody should go build something up by 95? We really think that if you build a large multifamily out by 95, somebody is ultimately going to still do something at this site, as close to the train, or they're going to do something at the nursing home. So you're still going to have the traffic coming through town. This project at 240 to 260 units would get you to Safe Harbor, and I believe it will even get you past the 2020 census update numbers. So your zoning board, your planning board, the board of selectmen would have control of your zoning again. So with that being said, we're here to answer questions and hopefully gain your support.
Okay, I think at our last meeting, we were all in agreement that the 320 units was too big, we couldn't support it. We decided to have a vote tonight, the following week. So the question is, do you still, to the members of the board, do you still stick to that opinion? Do you think it's changed in any way by the offer to do 240 to 260 units? My opinion is it doesn't change things. I think it's still too large, and that's my opinion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
one thing that I think you'll notice does happen in this presentation when we change it. When we start changing the parking, all this along the perimeter and out front here quickly becomes green space. We do want to keep the parking next to the railroad. It's the best place to put the parking. There's already noise, there's already issues there, so put it up against the railroad. But we would green up this space. We did a different layout and different height of the building. We may ultimately change that to 3 buildings. We may change it to 4 buildings. But we'd try to get creative and work with your planning department and ZBA.
Yeah, sir, I'm just curious, on a procedural issue, if we don't do anything tonight, in other words, we don't give you a letter, we don't turn you down flat, do you go to the planning board, or what's the next step? In other words, I would personally like to see some input from the planning board. I mean, they're more into these types of projects than what we are, and I would be interested in seeing what other boards, particularly the planning board, and ZBA probably can't say anything until they actually get a application, but I noticed you've talked to Kirk Baker, and he's given you some input, and I'm just wondering, is this a situation where if we do nothing, you would go to the planning board and talk to them, or where would you go from here?
Well, we're on a tight timeline with the seller. So they initially gave us 30 days to get to this board and ask for, are you going to support it or are you going to fight it? And so we'd have to get back to them and ask for a couple weeks. If we could get on the planning board's agenda in short order, we'd be glad to go and sit and have the same type of discussion with them, and then come back to you guys and see if there's a different, because they really are your planning authorities. I do know some of the Board of Selectmen have been on the planning board before. So we're more than willing to do that procedurally. If we don't go to the planning board, and when we know we don't have the support, if we really think it's going to be a Donnybrook fight, then we'll make a business decision do we even want to do it. And we'll do that relatively soon. The whole intent of having the Board of Selectmen's support is that it doesn't start off in a confrontational way. It's not like you show up at your first meeting, here's my project manager, attorney such and such. You show up, everybody's working. Ideally, what we'd love to have is someone from the Board of Selectmen, someone from the planning board, maybe from some other board. It's like a mini subcommittee that provides guidance to the process. But if we do just plain hostile or non-friendly 40B, we develop our plans, we file for a project eligibility letter with the state. At the same time we file for our project eligibility letter with the state, you receive a copy of that application. You have 21 or 30 days to comment back to them and raise your objections. Then they issue a project eligibility letter. Once the project eligibility letter is issued, we record that here with the town clerk. We also provide a copy to the ZBA. They have 21 days to publish a hearing and open a hearing. Once they open the hearing, they have 6 months to go through the process, hire peer reviews, go through all the normal steps. At the end of the 6 months, they have to close the hearing and issue a written decision, record that with the clerk within 40 days. At that point, if the project is not approved, we have the right to appeal to the Housing Appeals Committee. If it is approved and it's approved with too many conditions, we still have the right to go to the Housing Appeals Committee and get a resolution. So that would be the process. The biggest thing that would probably be hanging in the breeze if I was in your seats would be whether or not we're going to do apartments or condos. As this project shrinks, it turns into a condo deal. And as a condo deal, if they do 120, 140, 160, you get credit. If it's 160, you get credit for 10% of this, which is 16 units. You don't get any closer to your 40B, so guys, you get a little bit closer. So guys like us will be coming back.
Yeah, I guess my concern is that, you know, this kind of popped up out of the blue a month ago, or whenever we got the initial presentation or paperwork from you. And I agree with you that at some point, probably in the near future, if you don't build here, someone's going to. I think it's, just think that that property is going to sit there and not be built upon is a pie in the sky wish. That, and I like your, what you want to do. I still think it's too big, but I like the idea that, you know, the amenities, and you're making it into, you're bending over backwards to make it ecologically pleasing, and rather than having someone go up there and build a lot of houses. But I just would feel, I'd like to see what the planning board would, and if that means you're going to bail out, then I suppose that's fine. But I think we in the planning board need to take a look at this parcel anyway. I mean, when we looked at it before, it was a possibility of the town taking it over and then some houses going up back. But I think we really need to take a look at this particular parcel, and I'm also hearing rumors that Seaview is going to be sold, if not already. And that's another area that's going to have a lot of good high land that's going to be ripe for some kind of development up there, if that occurs. It's not on the, you know, it's just rumors at this point, but the nursing home, I guess, is definitely closing. So my concern is that I'd like to see if these kinds of parcels are becoming available, and there are also some parcels out on Havel Street up towards 95, as you've talked about, and the signs are up there. I would just like to see a bigger picture that maybe the planning board could give us, and give us a little bit of guidance. Because right now, we're going by your word, and I'm not questioning your word, but I think we deserve some time to have like a planning board consultant or something take a look at it, and, you know, check your figures and see if there's some alternatives that can be come upon. And I realize your time frame is relatively short, but I would like to see us take a little more proactive role in looking at this project than just the five of us. And if we end up splitting apart, well, I mean, I'm sorry, but that's, so be it. But I don't want to really shut the door at this point, but I certainly think that the townspeople and the various boards would benefit if the planning board could take a look. And at the same time, other people, you know, they have a consultant that takes a look and, you know, really give us a kind of a better picture of where things are going and where the development's going to be in town, because I think in the next 10 years, there's going to be a lot of development taking place that we're not even thinking about right now.
The other item which comes into play for town is, until you have safe harbor, even if you said, okay, we're going to work with you guys, until we're approved and that decision is recorded and goes beyond appeal, you still don't have safe harbor. So your
Building permits have to be issued, is that?
no. The building permits do not have to be issued for you to have safe harbor.
What needs to take place? The comprehensive permit needs to be issued?
The comprehensive permit has to be issued and recorded and go beyond appeal. And at that point, you have safe harbor. You would have safe harbor for 2 years. If we don't pull the building permits within the first year, all the building permits, your safe harbor is gone. If we come back and say we started on month 14 and we got it done, once they're done and occupancy is issued, you would regain your full safe harbor. But our goal would not be to fool around. But what you would, if you decided to do this under a friendly 40B, guys like us would look at it and say, you know what, the town's already working with them. we're going to be late to the party, it's probably not worth it. They'll be done.
Could you explain for the people at home, safe harbor?
Safe harbor has multiple ways you can get to it. Safe harbor is when the developer, if the developer goes to the ZBA, you can be over your 10%, and the developer can still make a 40B filing. But the ZBA would have the right, the Housing Appeals Committee would honor it if the town said, no, we have our 10%. There's also, you could have your safe harbor, temporary safe harbor, by having an approved housing production plan and be making progress on it. So if you had a formal housing production plan that was done and approved, and it said you were supposed to be creating 10 affordable units a year, you could have safe harbor through that. You can have safe harbor through the fact that you could do a land calculation, and you could show that more than 1.5% of the total land area in the town is already dedicated to affordable housing at 80% of the area median income.
Well, the state's rules, interpretations of that are so restrictive. We've explored that. It's not a possibility.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
I mean, everybody I know who has run up against it has prevailed.
Yeah.
So it's not worth chasing, but consultants will come to town, they'll offer you to do it for you.
Yeah.
How many, Mr. Chairman, how many affordable units do we have in town?
I don't know offhand.
How many what?
Affordable units.
Okay.
We're pretty low in our
Yeah.
I
percentage.
believe you're at approximately maybe 64. I believe you have 48 at one property and 12 in another or something. And on your affordable housing, there's no vacancies right now. And I believe there's people actually looking to get in.
So do you know offhand what our percentage is? Maybe David knows. Or
Your percentage, I think you might be around
I think
4%.
Sarah's going to say her.
yeah.
4.2%?
So we're way off from
Way off.
10%.
But you're not a big town, so our 240, 260 should put you over.
Yeah, it probably would.
I think it definitely would, because you currently, I think you have like 2,600 homes in town. So 10%, quick math, you need 260 roughly. So if the census is correct and you got 64, you're gonna be in pretty good shape.
Okay, so where do we stand?
I definitely go along with you that the 320 was too big a number for us to
And
consider.
240 and 260.
Coming down to between 260 and 240, I think makes it look a little bit better to me, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure that, that's still way over our 40B number that we need for units.
Yeah, I mean, all we're doing tonight is, we're deciding not to join onto a proposal. It doesn't mean we can't decide to join it later if they make changes to it. We're just saying, well, 240, 260, that's still too big. And it doesn't mean the planning board can't, and the Board of Selectmen can't maybe get together and do a study and figure out what we want for this parcel or what we're going to be facing in growth. But we have to come to some decision tonight, and I think that decision is we're not going to join you.
I think we should work with the developer and the planning board, and not just throw the baby out with the bathwater and look at this, because I'm afraid of a 40B someplace else with an entity that may not be conducive to the town. That's my concern.
Right.
The other thing when you look at where we're standing, and we eventually have to move forward, so to do a study that I think, if you'd like, we're, put the time and energy, we'll get our traffic engineer to look at the adjusted traffic, and we'll go with this same general pitch and spend whatever time the planning board wants with them as soon as possible, and then come back.
Now, there was a traffic study to be done on the traffic improvement plan, and I don't know which year, but they looked at Route 1 and 133 to widen that intersection. And I can't remember which year it was proposed for, maybe 2024. I think they were really looking for, if the money was coming out of Washington, and then they would, Mass DOT would be able to develop that intersection, so.
I don't like to bid against ourselves, but if you'd like us to go to the planning board, get a positive recommendation from them.
I don't think that's going to change my mind, because I was on the planning board, so, for a long, long time, so I have my own opinions, but I mean, I just can't support a project of 260 units, I just can't, that's just too many. If the planning board endorses it, I don't think I'm going to go along with that, but that's the way I look at that.
They're an independent board.
Right.
I just think it's a little unrealistic to come in here and expect us to okay 320 apartments with a month's notice in the location that it's at. And I'm not saying I would support 240 or 120 or 160. I don't know. I mean, I like what you're doing, what you're trying to do in terms of a classy, well put together project. But I just think that the town needs more input, and I don't want to vote you down on a friendly, but I don't want to vote for it either. I mean, at this point, my attitude is I would just as soon have you go to the planning board. If that's feasible. If it's not, then all right, we're out. But let them take a look at it, get some more feedback. I mean, I have had nobody call me since last meeting to say whether they like the project or they don't. I don't know if a few other people have had any calls.
I've had one person.
I know last week's meeting was on the community television was, for Comcast anyway, it was pretty much unintelligible for everyone. Verizon might have had it, so I'm just looking at, and I know you're in a time frame, and I completely understand that, and if you say you're walking, that's fine. It could be our loss, it could be to our benefit, but I just think that for myself, I would be in favor of just let the planning board take a look at it. And they're not going to approve it or disapprove it necessarily, but get a second opinion on the town side as to the scope of this project. And in the meantime, you guys might be able to sharpen your pencil a little bit and come in with another reduction of some sort. I don't know, it's up to you, but I just think that, to come in here in 2 weeks and make a decision, and then a week later you cut it down by 80 apartments, where it's just going too fast with too little information and too little input from the town side. So that's my feeling. And
Both the chairman and myself have served on the planning board, and I think we both agree that this is more in their venue than ours here at the Board of Selectmen.
The reduction that we made, it wasn't, we showed up here the first time expecting 320. We sat down, we went through it, we ripped through it, and said, okay, we're going to go back to the board. We know they want 160. We know they want something small. But let's not waste their time and tell them, okay, we're going to go to that, and then in 30 days, say, well, we get the cost of the wastewater treatment plant. It's $3 million. If we got the cost of lumber, can't afford it anymore. We need more. And be back renegotiating the deal. We went at it and said, okay, we're going to stay in it. What do we really need? What is the walkaway number? And the walkaway number for us is somewhere right in that 240, 260. But it definitely, I think it will appeal to someone else. If we have a straw poll, if you want to call it that, go see the planning board, get on their agenda, get back here, we'll pop you on the schedule as soon as you get back to us. And maybe some of the planning board comes and talks about it with you at the same time. And we'll ask the owner, will they give us a few more weeks? The town is at least talking to us. And the town wants to try to figure something out. I don't see any harm in the owner waiting, because if he gets clarification as to what would be supported on his property, it might help him down the road. It wouldn't be us developing it, but it may help him.
I just think, I appreciate the fact that you made a good faith effort to make a reduction, as you listened to us last week. And I think my own feeling is that in return for that, I would be willing to hold off a decision and let the planning board take a look at it. And, you know, like I say, if the time doesn't work for you, I'm sorry, but like I say, it's a little unrealistic to come in and look at a property this size with this density of apartments, and in 2 weeks, we're gonna okay it. So, I mean, it just doesn't hit on me right at all, but I think if we take some time and take a look at it, and you guys take another re-look at it and talk to the board, see what the planning board thinks, and you know, maybe we can work something out, maybe we can't, but at least I think it shows a good effort on your part, a good faith effort on your part, and I certainly want the town to show that we're putting forth a good faith effort to treat you the way that you came in here, and you've been very respectful and very open and very good as far as making your presentation, and very plain, and I think we owe you the time to take a more careful look at it with the planning board, the town planner, and get his opinion and so on and so forth. So that's the way I feel anyway.
I agree with Dave. You know, it should go to the planning board and have them take a look.
Yeah. Our meeting is not, we don't have our next meeting is in 2 weeks.
Right.
And so that would give you a chance to, I think, maybe get to the planning board, which I would support, and then bring it back to us.
Bernie?
Yeah, thank you very much for filling in the safe harbor, Austin safe harbor question. I couldn't figure it out. The question I have is, because of the need for...
Bernie, can you go to the microphone just so everybody can hear?
The need for these apartments is really, I think, driven as much by people wanting to downsize in town. Is that a reasonable surmise at this point? So, assuming that the downsizing is to 1 and 2 bedroom units, and I think we should hear from the developers what they think those rents would actually be, because if there's no demand in town, if that rent is too high for what we understand is the capability or the capacity for the townspeople, then that changes the way I would look at this decision. So I don't know whether I know that some numbers were presented, but they seem to be pretty vague, and it would help me to think through the pluses and minuses. Not that I have any vote on this at all, as to whether this is a really valuable project for the people in town. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, actually,
Sure.
Great question. So we don't have a specific dollar amount that we would target for each unit at the moment, but it would basically all be market value.
Can you move a little closer to the mic, please? Thank you.
So we do not have a dollar amount at the moment, but it'll be based off of a market value and what is comfortable for people in the community. We're not interested in outpricing people. To your point, there's various people that would need this product. Sometimes there's young people trying to move out here that maybe they can't afford a starter home. So this is a good opportunity to kind of get involved in the community. And then on the other side of that, there's also people who own those homes. They're looking to downsize. So this kind of creates a hybrid of those two groups, and obviously other groups as well. But it's a kind of unique opportunity to help shift that starter homes and people moving here kind of help grow the community. So we do not have a dollar amount at the moment, but I'm happy to look into that and give you a market value number.
Okay. So I guess we won't take a vote tonight, and that'll allow you to consult with the planning board and see what turns out of that, and see if you can do it within 2 weeks, but it's up to you. I mean, you can take as long as you want as far as we're concerned. But I understand that may not suit your needs, but...
Yeah, we would like to, either go all in and get going. I mean, we've spent a good deal of money to get to this point. We're going to spend not small money between now and when we meet the planning board. But we'd like to get back to you guys so you can at least get it off your agenda and say, hey, we're going to be solving our 40B, or we're going to be listening to more people like Calhoun Shaw.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Old business number 2, award the town hall trim project contract. 3 bids were received in response to the request for price quotations for the Rowley Town Hall exterior trim replacement and painting project. JB Painting Services of Marlboro submitted the lowest base bid. The total base bid plus the 2 alternatives from JB Painting Service is $15,549. Project budget is approximately $30,000. Therefore, all of the areas can be repaired and painted as planned within the budget. These areas include painting the cupola, all trim and doors on back and left sides of the town hall when viewing from Main Street, known trim replacement. Work is detailed in the RFQ. Please note, this work does not include the cost to repair additional trim. The town hall will remain open to the public during this project. So please authorize, so we need a vote to authorize Amy to issue an award letter and 2 copies of the contract for a total amount of $15,549 to J&B Painting Services, Inc. This includes the base bids and the 2 alternate bids. Number 2, authorize myself to sign 2 copies of the contract. Authorize Dave to work with the staff in selecting the paint colors and to approve change orders of up to $5,000 for additional repair work that may be discovered. Probably some will be discovered. Number 4, authorize Amy to issue a notice to proceed for a total amount of $15,549 for this project. Once the contract has been fully executed and the required insurance certificates have been provided to the town. Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Old business number 3, discuss a new basketball court. Parks and Recreation member David Zizza observed young children using chalk and small bikes on the new plexi paved surface on the basketball court on Thursday. The cost of this surface was $9,000. The vendor who installed the plexi pave suggested the town keep the court to be used mostly for basketball. He said hockey sticks and bikes and anything where the surface is taking direct blows with hard object is bad for the surface. He said bike tires will scuff the court as well. Does the board wish to install signage at the new court that says court for basketball play use only? Does the board have a suggested number of signs that should be installed? Debbie recommends 2 or 3 signs. A ballpark estimate for 3 signs is $500 to $600. There are remaining funds in the project budget that could be used for the signage.
I would recommend, Mr. Chairman, that we get 3 signs
Okay?
and monitor, you know, when we go by, if we see, you know, people playing on there that shouldn't be, we take whatever action is necessary, because that's been an expensive project.
Yeah, right.
Certainly don't want that field.
Just so
or that-
people at home know, what was the cost for the surfacing?
$9,000.
$9,000?
$9,000. So, I mean, this is not a small number,
No.
you know.
I also think we should consider sending just a friendly notice to the preschool, because I think that they spend a lot of time on the basketball court.
Right.
I'm not sure if they're using any sort of bike or ride-on toy, but I do know that there are many children that are spending their time there from the preschool. I observe them going in and out of the school, so I think maybe a friendly notice saying
I think
that
that's a good idea.
just
Yeah.
for basketball use, please, would be important going forward.
Yep. Have a motion?
Give me that motion.
Motion, any seconds?
I'll
Second.
second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Okay, Triton District Communications Committee meeting update. The committee met on September 30th. The DCC was presented with an updated comprehensive facilities assessment that reflects increased costs of up to $61 million. Joe is going to provide us with an update.
I have a few handouts. Few pass-outs. Sure. The new figure that they're showing is $61,581,000 $270. And what they're looking for is, if you remember, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, we were putting in a proposal to the State School Business Building Authority for a contract to renovate the school. And so that, they could come out with an additional award. They came to me 6 years ago and said, how much are you going to look for? And I had no idea what the figure was, but I picked a number, and we went in for $800,000, and that was awarded. They're talking $1.5 million for just that part of the project, just to look, assess the school and find out what their needs are. We have to get this in by, Triton is looking for a vote by November 18th. So I have a second handout for the eligibility. And this will give you an idea. This sheet here is showing you how the project works out, feasibility, and getting picked. I made the point that at the meeting, that when we put in for our Pine Grove, we were one of 95 bids to get reimbursement from the state. Only 15 bids were, or 15 projects were accepted by the committee, and we were fortunately one of them. I don't know whether that would take us out of the running for this bid, or would help us in this bid at all. I have no input on that at all.
Joe, do you know what the criteria is that,
I believe it's all set up in
all
here.
set? Okay.
I think it is in here. That they do have to get this in. We do have to vote it by the, we do have to reply to the Triton School Committee by the 18th of November. That's our next district communications.
The Board of Selectmen has to,
What they want to know is the town going to support this?
For 61 million.
To go in to apply for the state to be reimbursed the project funds.
it's not for the 61 million, it's for,
61 million.
oh,
I find this,
Isn't it town meeting? There wouldn't be a town meeting? Oh, they don't want a town meeting vote?
yeah, I mean,
I can't hear you. What did you, I didn't hear you, Dina.
I just didn't know, wouldn't they be looking for a town meeting vote? Or are they?
No.
No, they're looking, will
Just
we
the Board of
support the
Selectmen?
project?
Just the board, no
The
other?
town of Raleigh, the Board of Selectmen. I know that I have spoken, I spoke to another member of the Board of Selectmen in Salisbury, and they have problems with this, that they're not going to support it.
problems of meaning they can't afford it, or
Right.
they want problems with the work, and they question.
And personally, I may be just reading into the matter, but I don't think Newbury is too happy with this project either,
Yeah.
with the size and scope of it. And I will tell you, like I told you last week, that I think that the scope of the project, I don't think the $61 million, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a building. The building is in tough shape. The roof is leaking in several places, and if they pull up the top and fix that leak, they're going to spring a leak somewhere else. And the windows are in tough shape. The whole building is old, and it needs to be repaired. And I think that it'll take a lot more than $61 million. That's my personal opinion.
Right.
oh my God. That number's
That's
astronomical.
exactly by your-
I'm
It sounds
horrified that
It's
I'm
big, but it
horrified.
sounds insufficient, it seems to me.
I can't
Right.
believe
How much
that.
does the Pine Grove School cost? I mean,
The Pine Grove School, after the total amount was just approaching $40 million.
Yeah, okay.
And the state picked up that.
Correct.
And Mr. Chairman, I just think that, you know, the building, the basic building was built back in somewhere around 1970.
Right.
There was a project that was done at some time after that. I mean, I agree with Joe that, and if you look at the pictures, somehow we need to start looking at making some repairs and corrections to that building, otherwise we're gonna, at some point, it's gonna cost us a lot more. We know from the police and fire station and from the school Pine Grove project that, you know, building costs are going up 5, 6, 7% a year, depending on, you know, who knows for sure, but, you know, we're talking about, I don't agree with the 61 million, but I would like to support the project to the extent that we find out, will the state even consider it? We may, all three towns may say, yeah, we agree, and then the state says, no, we're not gonna,
Right.
we're not gonna give you a grant, and obviously, the three towns aren't gonna vote $61 million based on the tax rate. They may well not do 30 million either, but I think, once again, it's a situation we need to find out the facts, and I would like to see us, you know, support the project only to the extent that they can put the application in with the state and see what the state will do, if they'll even grant us a hearing on, and some reimbursement on the project. If they don't, or if they do, and the townspeople ultimately vote on it anyway, I just think that we shouldn't close the door on this building, because it's in need of repairs. It's been not so much neglected, but it's just getting old, and it's like the Pine Grove School, you know, we waited a long time to make any repairs there, and
Right.
This is the same thing that's happening at Triton.
But if you take a look at that booklet that I passed out last week, that in just doing scope one, they're talking almost $18 million. And that's just looking at, I think, the roof and some other repairs, the building envelope and some mechanical. But that again, it's only scratching the surface. And then they come in with a second request of another $14 million. And then it goes up to another $29 million. This is a big project.
Oh,
It's going to require many millions of dollars.
The hard, cold reality about building, and I learned this from transportation, dealing with the transportation plan, is that every year you kick off a project and say you're not going to do it, it's going to go up 4%.
That's true.
So
Still true.
So you kick this down the road, you could wind up with an additional, you know, for 3 years, 12% higher. And plus, we know building costs at this particular time, because of the COVID, anybody who's been down the lumberyard knows they're astronomical. So this will keep you up at night, won't it?
Yes.
So, just to clarify, by what date we need to vote on whether we're going to...
We have to reply to the District Communications Committee.
Right.
They are setting up a meeting for November 18th.
Okay.
That we need to reply by then as to what...
At the
whether-
meeting, or-
Where they're holding the meeting,
Okay.
right.
Very
And I have, you want to comment on that part of it, or I have to? In dealing with the schools, I've been on the board for 10 years, and one of the things that has come up frequently, and they want to establish the committee again to look at the alternative assessment, and they want to set up a committee to do that. They also want a committee to set up to do the landlord-tenant agreement. And, of course, it does mean a commitment to set up a school building committee. And I think that they would be looking for members from all three towns.
Yes, Barry.
Well, I'm a novice with respect. I'm a novice with regards to the school buildings and buildings in general in terms of public funding. the concern I had in the description of this process is that if we put forward a statement of interest for the whole refit, then we have to come up with the money for a feasibility study, and that feasibility study, in all likelihood, will expand that 63 million in only one direction, just as it did with the Pine Grove School, and that is up, and it's probably significantly up from this 63 million. That's just my guess. Again, I'm a novice in this area. It seems to me as though that given the state of the building, that there's an interim step that should be made as soon as possible, which is that then fits in or falls into what they term the accelerated repair program. And I don't know what the interaction between those two programs is. I suspect that if we get funding for the accelerated repair program, then that knocks us out of this kind of complete renovation of the building. But it seems to me that the accelerated repair program is in fact what it is that we actually need: the roof, the windows, the doors, the exterior leakage, areas of leakage, either from air infiltration or water infiltration. And quick back of the envelope calculations on those particular items in my calculation, brings the 63 million down to around 17 million. That's using their numbers. That's looking at the windows, the doors, the roof, and the HVAC, which would be, I think, the air handling system, given what we've just gone through with COVID, is an essential thing to be addressed. And it appears as though all those could be handled under the accelerated repair program. But I don't know. I mean, I think that's where we have, I would respectfully request that the board ask Triton to find out what is covered and what isn't, or to ask the school committee what is covered and what isn't, and so that we can at least make sure that the essential repairs for the building are done. And there's a fair amount of cosmetic things if you go through that long list, laundry list, that the architects put together. There's a lot of cosmetic things. Some are safety things, and they obviously ought to be done. But others are, you scratch your head. So, for example, there's I think it's $4 million for a fire system. Well, nobody wants the building to catch on fire. That's not the issue. But it seems as though the pressure point there for that $4 million is a way of recording a digital voice to communicate. So it's really not fire prevention, and I don't quite understand. And again, the architects may have more information on this, but I don't understand, if you really scrub through that list, what the essential needs are as opposed to nice to haves. And obviously they pushed out the nice to haves into year 3 and there's nothing in year 4 or scope 4, but it's all pushed. The $30 million falls into scope 3.
Oh, I would just add, Bernie, all 3 towns have added a lot of debt to the towns. I mean, we have new safety building up in Newbury, one in Salisbury, in our town. So we've added a lot of debt to the town. If we were I always try to look at a project as you're a homeowner. And if you have a problem with your home, what do you address? You don't do, most people have a modest income. Our town is a modest income town. So you would address the house in such a way, you would probably do the roof, or you might do the windows, but you're not going to strip down the whole house and do it. So again, with the amount of debt that the 3 towns have taken on to improve their public safety buildings, in this school, us with our school, we've taken a lot on. I think we've got to go back and talk to the schools and say, you need to look at different projects to improve the school, not all a project that's going to encompass $61 million. Because we know that, Bernie, I think you're right, once you put your foot on the door, that $61 million is going to expand.
If you lose control.
Well,
Yes.
I would again emphasize the fact that I do not think that $61 million is going to cover this project. And I don't think that when they start working on the roof, they're going to find, once you pull up a tile, once you pull up a membrane and start looking at what's underneath and the different sections, it's a pretty big area to work in. And I think they're going to find more problems. And I built my house in 1970. The school actually opened up in 1969. And so it's just over 50 years old. And it does need some work. But I don't think that any one of the three towns is prepared at this point to take on this scope of it.
I think, Mr. Chairman, it'd be valuable to take a look at, and I know we talked about this with Pine Grove, the accelerated repair. If we don't become eligible for some kind of state money, if 2 years from now we have to replace the roof, we pay for that 100%. So I think we should definitely explore all our options to getting some state aid. We may end up getting nothing out of them at all, but I think if we take a look at what the accelerated maintenance might help us with, because it's going to get expensive real quick if we're footing the entire bill. And I don't know what the chart said that a new roof would cost, but I'm sure it's very expensive. And generally, once you get involved in a new roof, you're talking about rooftop units. You know, it just, like Joe says, once you open that door, you're stuck with whatever you.
Right, and if you take off an air conditioning unit, you're not just going to repair it, or you're not going to replace it, or you're not going to put it back in its old position. You're going to have to make some repairs, because that's an old unit too.
I think it's like the previous project with that development at the Didax is, we need more information.
Yeah.
We need to take a look at the accelerated repair. We need to take a look at, someone can tell us what is the actual condition of the roof? Has it got 2 years, 5 years? Does it need to be replaced now? Or they got, 150 buckets in classrooms? Because some of this is, we've got to make the repairs, or the building's going to deteriorate very fast. So I just think we need more information. And if we could send a letter to the school board and/or the superintendent and say, look, at least give us what an accelerated repair program might do for us.
The building was built originally 1970,
Yeah.
and then the addition was,
Yeah, I don't remember what year,
okay, so you're talking,
maybe around 2000, I don't remember officially, but
Yeah, it was around.
is that the original roof from 1970?
probably on parts of it, yeah, part of it's new probably, but part of it's,
I don't think so. I think the average useful life and the membrane roof is 20 years.
yeah.
So I think it was
I think they did some work on it
I just think we need some
around 2000. But I think it's up for renewal.
I just think we need to look at an alternative if we can, and at least let the school committee or the superintendent tell us that, yeah, you can't do it because, or the cost for the accelerated program will be 20 million and the state B. Once again, if the state gives us a 50% roundabout reimbursement, and we're talking 10 million, well, of course, that's better than 30 million, but what is that going to do, and what does that leave to be done when that part of the project's done? Because obviously the building is deteriorating on a daily basis, so.
I think one of the options that we do have is that we could invite, we could talk to the school committee, and we could invite Narissa Whalen to come to a meeting in 2 weeks.
She's no longer the chair.
She's no longer chair, she's vice chair,
Yeah.
but she is involved with it.
Yeah. She's a Raleigh resident.
Sure.
That's a possibility, I'll throw that out.
Yeah.
I think we definitely need to ask for more information on this accelerated repair.
But we do need more involvement on the committees, because I can't do it. there are 3 committees, and I'm definitely not going to do a school project committee
Yeah,
again.
right,
Joe, if you got a list,
That took 6 years.
could you give us a list of those,
Long
Joe?
time.
I'm not looking.
Yeah.
I'm not
Can we get a
looking
list of
forward to that.
those committees, and then, maybe this one of us can, I might be willing to help out if I can, but I don't want to step in without knowing kind of what I'm getting into.
Oh, Bernie, sorry.
I'd make one other point, and that is, it's my exercise for the day. I'd make one other point, and that is that in the last 20 years, the head count for Triton Regional School District has gone down significantly. And if you look at the population projections out of the UMass Center for Population, I've forgotten the name of it now, but that trend is going to continue. And given that the time horizon that the state building group uses is a 30 to 40 to 50 year time horizon, we're talking about if the current trends, which are all projections, and families can decide to have 7 or 8 children again. I doubt it, but we're looking at that gradual, ongoing trend down. And some of the 3 towns, one of the 3 towns, is almost going to 0. I mean, if you're in Newbury, the number of actual students that you will be funding is going to be very small, which has a number of implications for Newbury and for the other towns, the other 2 towns who are supporting the school system. But both we and Newbury are on this gradual, not so gradual, actual declining in enrollments, and that should be I think should be the kickoff of what the need is before you spend $100 million. The need should be very clearly identified and sized as to what are you talking about? Because at the moment, on the roof basis, it looks like it's close to 200,000 square feet for this school. That's a lot of room per student. Anyway.
Yeah, I think, Bernie, we can agree that the population's going down, but whatever the student population is, whether it goes up or down, that's not going to affect the building assessment for what the building needs for repairs, and I think that's the difference. In other words, we may be able to get them to cut, as we do every year, try to get them to cut the budget or reduce the increase because of the lower student population, but the building is the building, and whether there's an extra 20 or 30 students in the building or 100 less, we still have to make repairs and keep the building up to par. And I think the other thing we need to look at is what are in that proposal, what are the safety issues that come into play? In other words, you talk about the fire system, well, maybe it's no longer up to code, I don't know, in a newer building. I have no idea, and we need someone to kind of explain some of these things to us. And, maybe the other towns would benefit too. It's a pig in a poke at this point. I mean, I think unless they get a real good explanation, the residents aren't going to vote for it anyway.
Right.
So it's
I'd like to just make one more point. When we were doing the Pine Grove and we were having early meetings as to what the committee wanted to include in the renovation or the school project. And we came to a point where we're talking about $35–40 million. And I said to the teachers who were there, you can get a brand-new school building. We'll tear out the building, and you can put in a brand-new school building. The only problem is that if you accept that, if that's what you want, then you're going to have a school that's 700,000 square feet, as opposed to the 900,000 square feet that you have today. And they decided that they wanted just to renovate the building that they had. And I think we did a good job on that.
Right, so you need an accurate enrollment projection, and I don't think there is one, because,
No.
a lot of other things can affect this, like, 40B development.
It can,
obviously.
it can.
And we have there are a lot of young children in town now, a lot of young parents, they're starting to move in, so.
Yep.
I don't know what the projection is going to be, but.
But I think you have to take into account I was a school teacher when I graduated from Salem State in 65 until 1980. And I had class sizes that ranged from 25 to 35. And back then, we could handle that size. But in today's school, you have kids with needs that are way beyond what I saw in the classroom. I saw maybe one or two children. I had 125 students a year in my classes, and I saw one or two a year that had special needs. Today, that figure is much, much higher. And so we have to consider that we're providing more needs for the children because of what's going on in the world. And that's affecting the school population.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
But I would like
not gonna
to,
resolve this tonight, that's for sure.
no.
There's a lot to digest.
I need some help. I need some more people going to
Yeah, I'm
the
sorry.
committee
I'm
meetings.
gonna go to the next one. Is the next one in November?
November 18th,
Yeah.
just before Thanksgiving.
So they're looking for a commitment from the towns to support them?
Right.
I mean, is it like Dave suggests that we support a petition to the MSBA just to
Right.
see if they'll sign on? Is that
Exactly.
what they're talking about?
Exactly. Yep, to go in for the feasibility study, and that, that we're looking to commit $1.5 million for the feasibility study.
Right, three ways, I mean, not an even division.
Yep,
Well, where do we get the money for that?
that's a good question. That's a good question. And again,
Will we need an override for that kind of?
that's
money?
only a drop in the bucket. This is not a $60 million project.
Yeah. Bernie?
More exercise, Bernie.
Keep raising your hand. Glutton for punishment.
you're the other one here.
My understanding is that if you make that submission for the feasibility study, then part of the 1.5 million, the state will reimburse you part of that.
Yeah.
So it's not 1.5 million. That's the loss leader from my perspective in this. It's 1.5 million for the feasibility study, and the state will probably fund something around 50%.
Yeah.
I don't keep.
I think when we went in for the feasibility, we went in, again, asked me, they just came to me and said, pull a number out of the air, okay. So I was thinking 600,000, somebody came to me and said, no, that's not enough. Why not? I don't know. So we went in for 8. The state came back with a little under 50% for the feasibility study. So we can expect a little under. So it could be,
That's if they grant it, if they decide they're not gonna do anything, then we're on our own, right?
right.
I think we need more.
If we're not chosen, we're
Yeah.
stuck with the whole,
I think we need more information before we can make a decision. Whether it's the accelerated maintenance or this program or whatever, I think we need someone from the school that knows, can give us some definitive answers on some of these questions that we have. And,
Well, would that person be Narissa? Should we ask her in?
I would invite her to
I
the
think-
meeting on the 18th.
I think it needs to be the superintendent and/or someone
Yeah.
at that level, because, Narissa is very knowledgeable about the school and the school system, but I don't know how much she knows about the building.
But we do have to understand that the commitment has to be made
Right.
in November so that we can get on the project list in the spring.
I just think that, I understand that, but I just think before we do that, we need to get some more information, concrete
Fortunately, we
information.
have enough time.
And we do have enough time to have the superintendent and/or someone, a consultant, maybe the consultant that did this study for them could come with him, and we can get our questions answered. And also, I'm very interested in finding out what the accelerated maintenance, I remember we talked about that with Pine Grove, and it was far enough back, I don't recall exactly what the details were, but I just think we're sitting here trying to make $63 or $61 million hit without any information.
No.
And I think it's just, it's an impossible task at this point. For me, I couldn't vote for it at this point, but I don't want to shut the door on it either.
Just one last comment. I do remember going into Boston and sitting with the Mass School Building Authority. And they said, you know, what's your project? And we said it was $39 million. And one member of the committee said, that's a minimum school renovation project, $39 million? And I'm looking at it like, it's pretty high for me, but then somebody says, no, that's small potatoes. Somerville's doing a brand-new high school for $254 million.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
The superintendent and perhaps the vice chair, Narissa,
Well, Narissa,
will
yeah, and Brian.
to attend the next
Yeah, maybe
meeting, October
the company that did this report.
Is it possible, do you think we have time to do the meeting after the 25th, or is that not the time? I won't be at the 18th meeting.
for October 25th.
Yeah, or is that cutting it too close?
No, I mean, you're meeting on November 1st, so you could, you know, if you want to take some
Right,
time
and
after that
that's
presentation to
before
you- Yeah, right.
mull it over.
Okay.
And then you have a
Yeah.
meeting on November 8th. So you have 2 meetings before
For
the
the 1st
18th.
and the 8th, right? And then
Yeah. So if
Okay.
you have, if they come in for the presentation on
the 25th.
the 25th, and you either make a decision that night or you mull it over for another week, you still have at least 1, if not 2 weeks.
Okay,
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
so when are you gonna ask me, what's your availability?
I will not be at the 18th meeting.
Okay, all right, so November what?
So the-
October 25th.
Okay,
if that's okay.
okay. All right, that's all we can do tonight.
So we're not going to invite anybody for the 18th or
We were gonna do the 25th instead, if
Yeah.
that's
25th.
okay.
that sounds good.
And then we'll have 2 meetings after that before the deadline that they need an answer
Right,
by,
right.
I think.
Right. I think that would give us ample time to discuss
right.
and come
Get
up
up
with
to-
our
get up to
response.
speed.
Yep.
Okay, we got 2 sets of minutes, an executive session minutes for September 20th, 2021. Can I have a motion?
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Seconds?
I'll second.
Motions are made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And then the September 27 minutes, regular session.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, one announcement, there are openings on the Conservation Commission, Open Space Committee, and Board of Shellfish Commissioners. Please check the town website under the board committee vacancies for more information, or call the Selectmen's office at 948-2372.
Give you a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion to adjourn has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.